Hey, welcome to Made for More. My name is Aaron Burke. Welcome to part 2 of my lessons that I've learned from my first 20 years of ministry. If you missed part 1, let me give you a little recap. I gave you the first 5, which is chase Jesus, not a job. Learn to pursue Jesus first in every area of your life and watch how he will work out all the rest of the steps. I never had a 5-year plan, 10-year plan to becoming some kind of success. I just wake up every day going, I'm going to pursue Jesus and watch how he'll direct my life. Number 2 is that everything takes longer. God has a big plan for your life, and it's not going to happen immediately. There's things I prayed for in year 1 that I just got in year 20 because everything takes longer with God. We see that all throughout the scriptures, but it's also true in your life. Why? Because God is more interested in developing you than promoting you. So let him develop you in the season. Number 3 is that personal growth is never wasted. That there's going to be seasons where you're learning stuff that you don't think it ever is going to apply to your life. There's classes I took, there's things I pursued, and round tables I sat in, books I read that I go, this is such a waste. And then it came back a year, 5 years later that I needed that information, and that personal growth was never wasted. Number 4, it's that relationships are your lifeline. You got to have friends in your life. You got to have mentors in your life. You got to have people that you can laugh with, that you can send memes to, that you can joke around with, that you can go on vacation with. It is so vital. It will fuel your life. Number 5, the 5th one, and the last one I gave you in last episode is that your daily time with God is non-negotiable. There's been seasons in my life that this has not been the priority, and my life became a wreck because of it. The last 4 years, it has gone to the next level for me. And as I've made it a priority and a non-negotiable, it has helped bring consistency in so many areas of my life. So I start every morning with God, and that directs the rest of my day. All right, I'm going to give you the next 5 in this episode, and I hope they help you, which, by the way, let me know. Tag me on Instagram that your team went through this, or send me a message. I want to know how these episodes are helping you, especially as we close out this year. All right, so here's your 6th one. Ready? Success isn't what you build, it's who you raise. This is so vital. Success is not what you build, it's who you raise. Your legacy is not buildings, it's not some corporation, it's not some location, it's not some industry. It's the people that you develop. It's the people that you individually pour into, that you speak life over them, and that is your legacy. And we see this as the leaders of the church, even in the New Testament, that the leaders were given. Paul says he gave apostles and prophets and evangelists and pastors and teachers to do what? To preach? No. To build great churches? No. To do what? To equip his people for works of service. That's Ephesians 4, 11 and 12. So it shows us that the greatest thing you do is not what you build, it's who you raise. So we have to be intentional about this. And I wish I would have done this better in the early years of ministry, because I thought the greatest thing I'm going to do is build me and build my name and build what I'm supposed to do. And really, that's not where success is. Now that I'm 20 years in, I realize the only real success that I have found over the last 20 years are those few people that I took under my wing, that I helped mentor, helped develop, and raised up, and they were able to walk into the call of God for their life. And it's such a joy to me. When I do ministry, it's so fun. But when I've equipped somebody else to go to the next level and they far surpass me, oh, that's the ultimate joy. It's now realizing what legacy is all about. One of my pastors, Richard Crisco, he was one of the, and during the 90s, he was a massive name in the church world, and he's still got such an amazing church, amazing ministry. But in that time, he was so prominent, traveling all around the nation. And I was just a kid in his youth group, and then around 2000, I got really radically saved, got involved in the youth group, and he equipped me in ministry. He put me in my first spot. He gave me my first opportunity to lead a small group. And he really discipled me through this process. And it's interesting because years later, I became the youth pastor at the ministry that he had helped start and ran all during those times in the 90s. And he really started to mentor me even from a distance during that time. Well, now you look at his life, and he's about 20 years older than me. So he's another level further into life. And as I look at him, I realize, you can preach all over the world. And a few people will remember your messages. A few people will remember what you did. But really, his legacy is the fact that there's, 10, 20, probably more than that, young leaders that he invested his life in that are now doing great things all over the world. And that's your real ultimate legacy. And it's the same with my life. I realize it, that, man, people aren't going to remember a lot of what I preach, but they'll remember when I pulled them aside, we had those crucial conversations, we had that discipleship time together, we had those times where I was able to put them into ministry, give them a shot nobody else gave them. This is where true fulfillment is found. So looking back on my life, my greatest joy isn't something I did. It's watching the leaders I poured into walk into their purpose, and it'll be the same for your life. By the way, Jesus' greatest ministry, even though he had the 5,000 that was fed, and he had the 4,000 that was fed, and he had all these other things that he did to the crowds, but it's the 12 he chose to invest his life in that truly made an impact and changed the world. And by the way, even with his 12, Jesus had a Judas. And if Jesus has a Judas, that means there are going to be people that you pour your life into that are going to let you down, that are going to abandon you, that are going to hurt you. And I've had a lot of those, and it really hurts. It really hurts when you spend years, now a decade plus, pouring into people's lives, and they walk out on you, and you betray you, and they unfollow you, or whatever it is in your life. And when that happens, you have a choice to make. And the choice is, don't stop investing in people. That's the choice you have to make. I'm not going to let the person who betrayed me keep me from the next person. Think about this. Jesus had Judas betray him, and yet Jesus still showed up to Saul on the road to Damascus. This is mind-blowing to me, that after betrayal, Jesus still showed up to Saul, who was a man who persecuted Christians, because even though Judas messed it up, he still thought this next one might be the one that'll go and change the world. And Saul turned into Paul and wrote a third of the New Testament and planted churches all over, and the world was changed because Jesus did not stop investing in people. Make sure that you do not get frustrated by those who have left you, and it keeps you from those who God is bringing you next. So here's some practical things on this. Call out the potential in others. Man, when you see it, say it. There's something about a leader that says it. And I've talked about this in the podcast and before, is the lips of the leader should be that, where we are encouraging and speaking life over people. Give people opportunities, even if they're going to fail at them. Give them an opportunity. Equip them well. Let them fail once in a while and be there for them. And then win by helping other people win. Just realize your greatest win is to see them winning. And if you'll live that way, I'm telling you, you'll walk into so much potential. All right, number 7 is family and calling should complement, not compete each other. Let me say that again. Your family and your calling should complement, not compete with each other. This goes for the business world. This goes for those who are athletes, professional athletes that are listening to this. This goes for those who are pastors. There's this weird tension. I have my family life and I have my calling, whether it's my church, my business, my leadership. And I want you to know, in a perfect world, as a spiritual leader, those should complement each other. There to be a tension that is managed, that if you can effectively dance with both of them at the same time and make it into one beautiful thing, that is where true success is found. I've heard it said this way, that the best way to have balance between family and calling is to put them all in the middle, because when they're all in the middle, that's where balance is found. If they're on the two extremes, one is always going to compete with another. So have them involved in each other. So for family, we have our family involved in ministry. We have our ministry involved in the family. They're intertwined. It's not two different worlds. I don't become a different person when I go home. I'm still pastor. I'm still the leader of the church, but I'm also their dad. And when I go to the church, it's the same thing. I don't stop being their dad. It's all the same, one and another. We're involved in it. My kids serve in the church. We started that at 8 years old for each of our kids. They all started serving a couple times a month. And what does that do? It creates ownership. No longer is it my parents' thing. It's our thing. We're involved in this together. So we just make it a point that our kids are involved in the life of what our calling is, because it is a family calling to be a leader. So let me give you some practical things on this, because we haven't always won at this. I remember when my oldest daughter was probably maybe 5 or 6 years old. I remember going to a funeral one time, and a pastor was there and was speaking to my kids. And he said, "Hey, don't you love the church? Isn't it amazing what God's doing in your church?" And I remember my daughter, Lily, looked at this pastor and said, "I hate that church." And I was sitting in the car. I was like, "What?" It was the first time I've ever heard those words out of her mouth. And I was so offended. I was like, something is wrong. Well, then I come to find out, we did a lot of talking, and I realized that there was a weird competition. It was the church was pulling me away. She was sitting in way too many services, and she didn't feel like she was being cared for. And it really created a great opportunity for us to fix a lot of this. So we started making it where it's our thing. And every Sunday that we went to church, she got McDonald's. And by the way, this is honestly almost 8-9 years later, still gets McDonald's every Sunday after church. We just made it a fun thing. Then when they turned 8, a pastor told me, said, when your kids turned 8, have them start serving in the church. And I remember, I don't know why that age was brought up, but it became something where now it's their thing. They're involved. Now, I understand it's different for the corporate world. But also, if there's a benefit or a perk of the corporate world, let your kids be involved in it. Don't always go out and have to play golf with other people in corporate America. If you get the benefits of golf, then take your kids. Let them be involved in it. Let them experience the benefits of you leading, because your family should complement their calling, not compete with it. The greatest advice that was given to me for this is from the missionary Jim Elliot. He says, wherever you are, be all there. So if you're at home, be all there. If you're with your family, be all there. If you're on a date night, be all there. If you're in the boardroom, be all there. If you're in a strategic vision meeting, you be all there. Be all there, because you can only be effective where you're at. And you can win at both family and ministry. I promise you, you have greater capacity than you can imagine, and both of them can be a success. Number 8. Here's a crucial one. Ready? It's you gain authority by honoring authority. You gain authority by honoring authority. Now, this is unique because people think that if you down authority and you mock them or you dishonor them, then that actually promotes you, but it doesn't. You see it all throughout the scripture that we are called to be submitted to the authority that God has put over us, whether that's in the government, whether that's in our home, whether it's in the church. We're called to live a submitted life, and we're all called to live submitted. Romans 13 says, let everyone be subject to governing authorities. There's no authority except that which God has established. So this is where we have to learn the principle of honor. And honor has changed my life. When I honor my authority, it positions my life to be promoted to what God has for me next. When I dishonor authority, it reveals more about me than it does about my authority. Because what I'm doing is I'm showing that they have issues, but everybody knows our authorities have issues. But when you speak it out and you dishonor them, you're actually revealing the issues in your life, your own insecurities, your own struggles, your own setbacks. So we're called to honor the authority that God has put over us. So I served for 6 years as a youth pastor at Brownsville under my pastor, Pastor Evan, and I love him so much. But there was a lot of things we butted heads with. There was a lot of vision that I had that he didn't have. There was some vision that he had that I didn't have. And there was times that I would have led different, but it was not my job to subvert his authority. As I served in the church, I honored it. I never talked bad about him. There was times I was frustrated, but I never went home to my wife to say, hey, I just want you to know this and this and this is happening. Why? Because I always wanted to honor my pastor, especially to my family, especially to those who I was raising up in ministry. I was setting a standard of honor. So we all have to do better at this. So let me give you some challenges in this, because the way we honor the people that God's put in our life sets us up for what God has for our lives in the future. So a couple practical things: challenge up, support down. I've lived by this principle. When it comes to leadership, you should be able to challenge up at any time. challenge what's going on, challenge the strategy, challenge the vision, challenge what call is being made. But when you leave that room, you should support the leader. You should support the decision being made. And other people should not hear how you disagreed with your leader. That's not an honoring thing to go, I didn't agree with this, but this is their call, and so I'm just going to run the play. No. We are a team. We made this call, and when it came to me and my pastor, you never knew if I just didn't agree with it, and there was a lot. But you know what I did? I was called to serve, and I was called to honor, and you never get far in life by dishonoring the authority that God has for you. So let me give you a couple other things for this. I have 4 pastors that speak into my life and an internal board that also is over me when it comes to the oversight of our church and our finances. And when they correct me, it is my job to walk in a posture of humility to receive correction from the authority in my life, even when there's times when I go, well, you don't understand the full situation. You don't understand what's going on. Because as God's placed that authority in your life, many times you don't see what they see, but they are been given discernment by the Spirit of God to call out things. I'll have my pastor sometimes call me and they'll go, hey, I've just been praying for you this morning. Are you traveling right now? Like, yeah. I remember one time I was in South Carolina speaking. I said, yeah, I'm traveling. He goes, you need to pull back from that. What events are on your calendar the next month? Let's pull back from this. You need to spend more time with your family. And I was like, you don't understand. This is obligations I have. This is commitments I made. But he saw something that I didn't see, and there was stuff going on in my family that I didn't even know about, but God knew, and he uses authority to speak in your life. So don't be quick to go, no, you don't know what's really going on. No, anytime I get correction from my oversight, I always go, there's maybe something here that I need to have a posture of humility that'll help me move forward, that can only come through honoring the authority that God's put over you, which, by the way, honor only comes into play when you disagree. You know what I mean? Like, it's not honoring when you only do what they say because you agree with it. Honor comes into play when you don't agree and you don't like it, but you're still going to do what God has called you to do because it's the right thing to do. So let me give you one more thing on honor, is that honor is the discipline of learning to find the gold without tripping over all the dirt that you see along the way. Everybody has gold in their life. And you've heard me talk about this, and it's so vital when it comes to your leadership, when it comes to the people in your life, that you choose a position of honor to where you're celebrating who they are instead of tripping over who they're not or the dirt that you see in their life. So you want to gain authority in your life? You want to get over the things that God wants you to get over? Then the way you do that is you stay submitted to the authority that God has for your life. So just live with the principle that I'm just never going to dishonor people in authority. It's just not what God has called me to do. Number 9, quick forgiveness protects your heart. You've heard me talk about this one if you've listened to the podcast for a while, because I want to be a leader that grows old and grows wise without growing bitter. You know what I'm talking about? You know how people, it seems like as they age in life, they get more and more bitter because people have betrayed them, people have hurt them. So the way that you're supposed to live is with thick skin, but a soft heart. Your heart is still soft. Your heart is still receptive. Your heart is still open to correction and to new relationships and to what God wants to do. And the way to do that is quick forgiveness. And when you forgive people, you're not letting them off the hook, but you're freeing yourself from being bound by what happened or by that offense, or by constantly going on their page and looking at what they're doing and getting angry time and time again. No, you're letting that go so that you can move forward and protect your health and you're protecting your heart. The Bible says, above all else, guard your heart. From everything you do flows from it. And the way you guard your heart, forgiveness. And you got to forgive them quickly. So there's mornings I'll wake up and I'll just say, God, I forgive people in advance because I know someone's going to hurt me. I know someone's going to say something that they don't mean, and that is a place for us to release it to the Lord so that we stay with a soft heart. I had friends in my life. They go, Aaron, we're ride or die. And you know what? They ended up leaving. It's tough. But you know what my job is? Release it. Stay with a soft heart. I don't ever want to walk into a grocery store in the Tampa Bay area and see someone and feel like I have to hide. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know that person that like you're like, oh, we had a falling out, or they hurt me, or they said something. I want to release that hurt. I want to release that offense so quickly that I could go up and give them a big hug, celebrate them, champion them. I remember years ago, someone did something completely inappropriate, just crossed a major boundary, and it broke our relationship. And they were, when I say they were totally wrong, they were totally wrong in this situation. And they went online and started bashing a lot of stuff with the church, and because we confronted this inappropriate behavior, the stuff, and they went about trying to really, really, really hurt me, hurt my wife, said stuff about my kids. It was crazy. And so I had to have this moment where I had to release the offense to the Lord. I remember preaching about forgiveness, and the Lord put it on my heart. Like, hey, you haven't forgiven those people. Like, if you walked into a grocery store and you saw them, you would hide. And I remember thinking that way and going, yeah, you're right. I haven't released that in my heart. So I did. I had a moment with the Lord. I released it. I had this little ceremony. I submitted their name to God. And I said, God, I really wanted to release in my life. Well, a couple years later, I saw her. She shows up at one of our campuses. Well, her and her husband had this terrible divorce, fallout. I didn't know anything that happened because there was no more communication. And when I saw her, I had this supernatural love from God. Gave her a big hug. So great to see you. And where did that come from? That was just because I had let it out of my heart. I was actually able to minister to her in her hurt because I had forgiven her years ago. And you just got to let that stuff out of your heart. All right, here's your last one. But before I give you your last one, for the last time, I'm going to recap the first 9. Ready? And I'll give them to you very quick so that you understand 10 lessons in 20 years of ministry. Chase Jesus, not a job. Number 2, everything takes longer. Hold on. It's going to come to pass. It's just going to take some time. Number 3, personal growth is never wasted. Keep investing. Keep digging wells of knowledge and information. You're going to use it one day. Number 4, relationships are your lifeline. Don't pull away from friends. Lean into it. That'll open more doors for you than ever before. Number 5, your daily time with God is non-negotiable. Spend that time with God every morning. It'll bring consistency and strength to every day. Number 6, success is not what you build, it's who you raise. Think people, not programs. Think people, not buildings. Think people, not your ministry. Just think people. Number 7, family and calling should complement, not compete. The way to do that is wherever you are, be all there. Have them involved in each other and watch how the calling that you have becomes your family calling, and together you will win at both. Number 8, you gain authority by honoring the authority in your life. And when you want to go to that next level, you don't go to that next level by dishonoring and speaking bad about people over you. No, you celebrate who they are instead of tripping over who they're not. Number 9, quick forgiveness protects your heart. Stay with a heart posture that is soft, that forgives quickly, because people are going to hurt you, but God's called you to forgive. And number 10, your charisma can never outgrow your character. When it comes to your life, you never want to have charisma that is so great that you don't have the character to sustain it in your life. And I have met the people, I remember going through college, and I met these guys in my classes that were so gifted. They were naturally gifted. They could preach the paint off the walls. They had the ability and the swagger, and they had this ability to really gather people. And I thought, I am nobody compared to them. They're so much better. If you remember the parable of the talents, one got 1 talent, one got 2, one got 5. These were like 5 talent guys and girls that I was just so intimidated by. I always felt like I was like a 2 talent person. But I remember many of them over the years, I've seen them drop one after another, moral failure after moral failure, issue after issue. And what happened is who they were in the dark and who they were when it came to their character and their integrity was not who they were presented to be from the stage. And what they had is they had this great charisma without the character to keep them. So what do? You've got to realize that your secrets really matter. And you're only going to be as successful as you are honest in life. So find ways in your life that you can have some people around you that works on the cracks of your character, to work on the issues in your life that nobody sees, instead of always focusing on the things that everybody sees. Everybody sees who you are on the stage. Everybody sees the clothes that you wear. Everybody sees, the things you put on social media. But what God is interested in is in the things that nobody else sees, that only He sees, but actually are the very things that the enemy is going to try to use to trip you up one day. Maybe, just maybe, the enemy's waiting for you to climb that mountain of success so that you're in the spotlight, so that he can finally trip you up on that one issue that you haven't been able to overcome, and then you'll have the dramatic fall that we've seen so many times. How do you avoid that? You got to be honest with God, and you got to be honest with some people in your life, and you got to get the help you really need. So a couple of things I live by. First of all, I live by the phrase, others can, I won't. Others can, I won't. There's things that other people can do that I won't do, simply because I'm called to live at a greater level, at a higher standard. And you go, well, that's different. The standards should be the same for everybody. No, not as a leader, not as a church leader, not as the CEO, not as the president of that corporation. You have a higher standard to live. You can't just speak everything that's on your mind. You can't just do everything you want to do. So live with a higher standard. Others can, I won't. I remember the Billy Graham rule came under fire years ago, where people were all mad because Billy Graham had this whole rule that he wouldn't meet with a woman one-on-one, or he wouldn't ride in a car with a woman by himself. He wouldn't even get in an elevator if it was just a woman on that elevator by himself, because he wanted to live so far above reproach. Well, Billy Graham ended well. He lived a life of integrity. And if it means that you live with such guardrails and such safety in your life that you're never accused of anything, I'm going to go that route over the route of just like, well, I'll just do whatever, no rules, we're not under the law anymore. No. Let's live in such a way that we're going to value character, integrity more than anything else. And I have found if you'll work on your integrity and you'll work on your character, God will work on your reputation and God will work on your platform. Don't let your charisma outgrow your character. Work on the things that nobody sees, and God will bless you with the things that everybody sees. Hey, I hope these have helped you. These have been 10 lessons and my first 20 years of ministry. I hope there's some wisdom for you in your life. And I truly want you to know that you are made for more, and how you handle what you're given right now really determines how you deal with the next 20 years that God has for you. Keep growing, keep learning, keep working on the things nobody else sees, and God will bless your life. I'll see you next month on Made for More.